Alright guys, let's start going through this review. We will obviously start on number 1. So standard form, remember standard form is going to be highest exponent to lowest exponent. So this one we're going 3x to the 4th minus 2x cubed minus 5x minus 5. Everything leaves it just like that. We just leave it like it is. We're just reordering where we're putting things. Standard form for this one, we've got a positive sign in front of the v to the 5th, so we're going to v to the 5th. We've got a negative sign there, so minus v to the 4th. There is no v to the 3rd, so plus 2v squared minus 21. Now our stuff is in standard form. Moving on to adding these things, remember we're only adding like terms. So x squared is 2x squared plus a negative 3x squared gives us a negative 1x squared. And then our x's, so 7x plus negative 2x plus 5x. And then there's nothing to combine that plus 1 with, so we get plus 1. We leave our answer just like that. Our next one, we have a subtraction sign, so you have to be careful. We're subtracting everything. So 7t squared minus 2t squared, we get 5t squared. Negative t minus 10t is going to give us a negative 11t. And 5 minus a negative 9, that's going to turn into a plus. So plus 14 is what we get when we add those together. Number 5, we have to do a whole bunch of distributing here. So x times x squared gives us x cubed. X times negative 4x gives us minus 4x squared. And x times 5 gives us plus 5x. Then we've got to do the negative 5, so negative 5 times x squared minus 5x squared. Negative 5 times negative 4x gives us plus 20x. And then negative 5 times positive 5 is going to give us a negative 25. So now we have to combine our x squareds. So we have x cubed minus 9x squared. Combine our x's. So we have plus 25x and minus 25. Okay, then once we get here, we are going to distribute. So we've got 2x squared times 2x to the 3rd. We multiply our coefficients, so 4, add our exponents, so 4x to the 5th, minus, distribute here, so minus 10x to the 4th, and distribute one more time, plus 2x squared. Nothing to combine, nothing has like exponents, so we can't combine anything. When we get down here, this is where we're doing distributive property again. So 4x squared, multiply here, so plus 14x, and negative 7 times 2x, so minus 14x, and negative 7 times positive 7 is minus 49. If you notice in our middle, we combine those. They end up canceling out to get to 0, so we end up with 4x squared minus 49. Next one, now we have a subtraction sign. So negative 4x cubed minus 2x cubed, so negative 6x cubed. And then we have negative 5x squared minus 9x squared, so minus 14x squared. And then we have 2x minus nothing. There's no other x over there, so that just leaves us with our 2x. And then we have to be careful here because we have to think of this as being a 0 minus 2, and that's going to change to a negative 2, so be careful with that part right there. Okay. Now we have distributing again. So m times m gives us m squared. M times negative 1 is minus 1m. 6 times m is plus 6m. And then 6 times negative 1 is minus 6. We need to combine our middle terms. So we get m squared plus 5m minus 6. Number 10, 3k times 2k gives us 6k squared. 3k times 5 gives us plus 15k. Negative 1 times 2k is minus 2k. And negative 1 times 5 gives us minus 5. Combine those middle terms. 6k squared plus 13k minus 5 is going to be our answer. Alright, another one, another distributing one. So 7x times x squared gives us 7x cubed. 7x times 3x gives us plus 21x squared. And 7x times 5 gives us a plus 35x. No like terms there, so we don't have to worry about combining anything else. Number 12, again, a subtraction sign. So negative 3x cubed minus a negative, so that turns into a plus. So we end up with a positive 3x cubed, 2x squared minus 8x squared, so negative 6x squared, and then 3 minus 3 is going to give us a 0, and we don't have to put a 0 there, so our answer is going to be just like that. Next page. Took us forever to get off page 1. Number 13, we are adding, so 3x, well, let's go standard form. Okay, so we need our x to the 6th as our highest exponent, so let's do that. We've got negative 5x to the 6th plus a negative 7x to the 6th gives us negative 12x to the 6th. Then we can combine our x's, so 3x plus 9x is going to be plus 12x, and then negative 7 plus a 3 is going to give us a negative 5. Here we've got to do more distributing, so x times x squared gives us x cubed, x times negative 2x gives us negative 2x squared, and x times negative 2 gives us negative 2x. Negative 2 times x squared gives us negative 2x squared. Negative 2 times negative 2x gives us positive 4x squared. And negative 2 times negative 2 gives us a plus 4. So now we need to do like terms. We don't have another x cubed, so that comes down. X squareds are here, so that's minus 4x squared. And then we have a negative 2x. Oh, sorry guys, this should just be a 4x because we took negative 2 times negative 2x, so plus 4x. So negative 2x plus 4x gives us a plus 2x, and then a plus 4 at the end. Alright, so now we can combine like terms again. We've got 5t to the 4th. Look at what's in front of your parentheses, so plus 7t to the 4th gives us 12t to the 4th. Our next highest exponent is just a t, so be careful here. This is going to be a negative 5t plus 4t is just going to give us a negative 1t. And then we've got a negative 6 minus 2 is going to give us a minus 8. Okay, I think on the key that is in Daily Planner, this is wrong in the key. That should be a minus 1t. Okay, so now our highest exponent is d to the 3rd. So we've got 7d to the 3rd plus 3d to the third, so 10d to the third. And then we've got our d's, so negative 3d minus 4d is a minus 7d. And then negative 2 minus negative 3 is going to be a plus 1. Okay. All right, maximum or minimum. Okay, if we look at A right here, so we can say because A is positive, we know that the parabola opens up. Okay, if our parabola opens up, it's going to look like this. And if it looks like that, we are going to have a minimum. So therefore, we will have a minimum. Okay, on your final, you're going to have to write this out like this. So be careful with that. On this one, we know that because A is negative, I'm not going to write this out, but you probably should. Because A is negative, we know that the parabola opens down. And if the parabola opens down, our vertex is going to have a maximum. Okay, so in this case, we would have a maximum. Okay, how do we know? Because A is negative, therefore our parabola opens down. Okay. All right, factoring, yes. Okay, remember, in factoring, has to multiply to the end number, add up to the front number. So this one, we've got x, what do we have? Minus 9 and x plus 6. We couldn't do x plus 9 and x minus 6 because that would give us a positive 3. We need that negative 9 and our positive 6 so that we have that negative 3 in the middle. Okay, number 20, 56 is going to be 7 and 8, so we've got a plus and a plus, so we can go x plus 7 and x plus 8. That is going to get us to 56 if we multiply them, and they will add up to 15. Okay, 21, we've got a number in front of our x squared, so this is where we've got to make our boxes. Okay, so I'm going to try 3x and 2x. That'll multiply together to get to 6x squared. And then if I want to get to negative 5, I can use negative 1 and positive 5, or I can use negative 5 and positive 1. So we've got to kind of figure out where they go. Okay, if we go negative 1 and positive 5, now remember we have to multiply across, so we get negative 3x. And if we multiply across here, we get 10x. If we add those together, gives us our 7x, and that's what we want in the middle. So we leave that. Now, when we want to write our factors, we have to go diagonally. So we've got 3x plus 5 is one factor, and our other factor diagonally is going to be 2x minus 1. Okay. Same thing here. We've got stuff in front, so we need boxes. Okay, we know we're going to have 2x and 1x because that's the only possible way that we can get to 2x. Okay, 24 has lots of possibilities. We've got 1 and 24, we've got negative, or we've got 2 and 12, we've got 3 and 8, we've got 4 and 6. So lots of possibilities for 24. So what we need to do with that is try to figure out how are we going to get to negative 13. And the way I did that is I went negative 8 and positive 3, because now if I multiply across, I've got negative 16x. I have positive 3x. So if I add those together, I've got negative 13x, which is what I want. So now we go diagonal for our factors. 2x plus 3 and 1x minus 8 is going to be our factors. Okay, 23. When we have 4 things, we need to do this by grouping. So I'm going to group those two together and these two together. Okay, biggest term that comes out of both 56 and 84 is going to be 28. So I can take out a 28. I can also take out a k squared. Okay, so what do I have left here? When I do that, I have 2k minus 3 right there, and then I'm going plus. If I figure out what can I take out of both of these, it's going to be a 35, and then I have 2k minus 3. So now I take this factor here, we're going 28k squared plus 35, and then our other factor is 2k minus 3. Since we want to factor this completely, okay, I've got to check to see if anything else comes out of this factor right here. And yes, it's a 7. So I can take 7 out. If I take 7 out of here, I get 4k squared plus 35 divided by 7 is 5. And then I keep my 2k minus 3. So factored completely is going to be that answer right there. Okay, so now in 24, we have something in front of my x squared again, so I need boxes. I'm going 5x and 1x, negative 4. We know it can be negative 4 and 1. It could be 4 and negative 1. It could be 2 and 2. We don't know. But we know that if we multiply 5 times 4, we're going to get 20, which is going to be close to that 19. Okay, and we want it to be positive, so let's go positive 4, and then we've got negative 1, and let's see where it gets us. Multiply across, and we've got 20x. Multiply across, we've got negative 1x. Gives us 19x, and that's what we want. So now, diagonally to make our factors, 5x minus 1 and x plus 4 are going to be our factors. Okay, number 25, there is no middle term. Okay, what we have figured out is that there's no middle term, we're hoping for these to be perfect squares. Okay, and they are. So to get to 9x squared, we can get 3x and 3x. To get to 36, we can go 6 and 6. And then to get rid of that middle term, we've got to go plus and minus. So that will cancel out our middle term. Okay, on this one, what can come out of both of them? Okay, a 6 can come out of both of them, and they both have an m, so I can take an m out. And so then 12 divided by 6 gives me 2. M squared divided by m is going to give me m, minus 6m divided by 6m gives me 1. So this is my factored form when I take out a 6m. Okay, roots. Now we're talking chapter 9 is where we get into this. So I'm talking roots here on number 30. My roots are where does it cross the x-axis. Okay, so right here we've got where it crosses our x-axis, so there's only going to be one root. In this case it's going to be over 1, so we've got 1 comma up 0. Our root in this one is going to be 1, 0. Okay. I did go to 30. Sorry guys, I skipped this page. So 28, back to 28, sorry. We have roots is where it crosses the x-axis. This one doesn't cross the x-axis anywhere. So this one is going to be no solution. Okay. This one, where does it cross the x-axis? Right here and right here. So we are going with 0, 0 as my first root. My second root is going to be 2, 0. Alright, so now that makes more sense that that's 1, 0. Now they're making us factor to find it. So if I go here, how am I going to get to 6? 3 and 2 so that they add up to 5. So x plus 3, x plus 2. But now I'm trying to find the roots, so now I still have to solve that. So now I've got to go x plus 3 equals 0, and x plus 2 equals 0. So x equals negative 3, x equals negative 2. Okay, again, another factoring one. Negative 8, positive 2, I'm going to go x plus 4, x minus 2 equals 0. So now my x plus 4 equals 0, my x minus 2 equals 0, so x equals negative 4, and x equals a positive 2. Okay. Number 33, we've got a factor. We've got to figure out what can come out of this. Okay. My common term here is going to be a 3, so I'm going to take out my 3. I've got x squared minus 4. Okay. Now my x squared minus 4, now I can go ahead and factor that into the difference of two squares. So I have 3, and then I'm going to go x plus 2 and x minus 2, because that's how we get rid of that middle term, a positive and a negative. So now 3 equals 0 is nothing, so we don't worry about that. But we've got to go x plus 2 equals 0, and x minus 2 equals 0, so x equals negative 2, and x equals positive 2. Okay. All right, so we can solve these quadratics using any method. Okay, lots of different methods that we talked about. This one's already factored for us, so we can go ahead and just solve this as x plus 5 equals 0, and x plus 7 equals 0. So I am going to go ahead and get x equals negative 5, and x equals negative 7. Okay, that one wasn't quite so bad. When you get to number 35, okay, you're going to notice this one's not factorable. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to remember how to complete the square. So for completing the square, step number 1 is move c to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 11 and subtract 11, and then leave some room. So x squared plus 8x equals negative 11. Okay, so then we need to find b divided by 2 squared. So in this case, b is 8. We divide it by 2, we get 4, and we have to square it, and we're going to get 16. So we have to add, we're going to add our b divided by 2 squared to both sides. So I'm going plus 16 and plus 16. So now I have x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 5. Okay, so now we're going to factor the left. And it's always going to be something squared, remember. So we're going x plus, okay, our perfect square of 16 is 4. So x plus 4 squared equals 5. Okay, step 5 is square root both sides. Okay, so square root and square root. So we end up with x plus 4 equals, now square root of 5 is going to give us, punch it into your calculator, 2.24. So we have to set up two equations. Okay, so 2.24 and x plus 4 equals negative 2.24. So step 6 is going to be write two equations. Okay, and then step 7, we get to solve those equations. So subtract 4 and subtract 4, we get x equals negative 1.76. Subtract 4 and subtract 4, we get x equals negative 6.24. So, moral of the story is, if you cannot factor it, you're going to have to do complete the square, or we're going to go ahead and do some also with the quadratic formula. Okay, and this one, I like to say if this is going to be an even number, I like to complete the square because then I get nice numbers. Okay, in this case, my 30 is already moved. So I have r squared minus 4r and then equals 30. Okay, so negative 4 divided by 2 squared is going to be negative 2 squared, so plus 4 and plus 4. So r squared plus 4r plus 4 equals 34. Now we factor. R plus 2 squared equals 34. Square root both sides. We have r plus 2 equals, this is where we go two equations. Square root of 34 is 5.83. R plus 2 equals negative 5.83. So we get, subtract our 2, r equals, ooh, sorry guys, this should be a minus sign. So this should be a minus sign, which makes this a minus sign. Sorry. So this is a minus, and this is a minus, which means we add 2 in order to solve our equation. So r equals 7.83, and r equals 2.17 when you add that. Okay, right up here, I just rewrote it wrong. So this needs to be a minus 4. And if that's a minus 4, then this has to be r minus 2 squared, because I need a negative 2 plus a negative 2 to get me to a negative 4. Okay? So here, now in order to do this one, I've got to get everything on the correct side. So I am going to go with x squared. I've got to move my 10x, so subtract my 10x minus 10x plus 17 equals 0. Okay, this is even numbers, so I'm going to complete the square again, just so that we get some practice doing that. We've got x squared minus 10x equals negative 17, because we moved our 17 over. Now we've got to do our b, so negative 10 divided by 2, and square it is negative 5 squared, which is plus 25 and plus 25. So x squared minus 10x plus 25 equals 8. So now I can factor x, since this is negative, it's got to be minus 5 squared equals 8. Okay, square root both sides. X minus 5 equals, square root of 8 is going to be 2.83. X minus 5 equals negative 2.83. So we add our 5. X equals 7.83. Add our 5. X equals 2.17. Holy, I wrote this one down wrong too, guys. I'm sorry. Negative 5.83 plus 2 is going to give you a negative 3.83. Wow, this problem was kind of a cluster. I apologize. So if you're looking to complete the square, you might want to check out 37 here. Okay, 38. This one we should be able to factor into the difference of two squares. So x square root of 144 is going to be minus 12, and x plus 12, set them equal to 0. So x minus 12 equals 0, x plus 12 equals 0, so x equals positive 12, x equals negative 12. Okay, number 39. We're going to get everything on the same side. So x squared plus 7x minus 14 equals 0. You could do completing the square in this, okay? But I feel like we need a little bit of practice in the quadratic formula. So that's the opposite of b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Okay, so in this problem we have a equals 1, b equals 7, c equals negative 14. So we're going the opposite of b, negative 7 plus or minus the square root of b squared. So 49 minus 4 times 1 times negative 14, all divided by 2 times 1. So negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 49. Negative and a negative turns into a plus 56, all divided by 2. So negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 105 divided by 2. This is where I go ahead and split it into two equations. So negative 7 plus the square root of 105 is 10.25 divided by 2, and negative 7 minus 10.25 divided by 2. Okay, when you're punching this into your calculator, make sure you hit enter before you divide. So negative 7 plus 10.25 and then divided by 2. So this one we're going x equals 1.625, and this one we're going x equals negative 8.625. Okay. And number 40, we've got 2x squared minus x minus 120. Anytime there's a number in front of x squared, completing the square really isn't going to work. So if you can't factor it, you're going to want to do the quadratic formula. So remember that a equals 2, b equals negative 1, and c equals negative 120. So the opposite of b is 1, plus or minus the square root of 1 squared is 1, minus 4 times 2 times negative 120, all divided by 2 times a, which is 2. So we are going with 1 plus or minus the square root of 1. That turns into a plus 480, all divided by 4. So now we're going 1 plus or minus the square root of 481, sorry, all divided by 4. Now we can split it into 2. 1 plus square root of 481 is going to be 21.93, all divided by 4, and then 1 minus 21.93, all divided by 4. This one, x is going to equal 5.73. Here we've got x equals negative 5.23. Okay, 2 more problems in this section. Oh, 3 more problems in this section, sorry. All right, so here when we move our 8, we have m squared plus 4m plus, what do we get here, 21 equals 0. Okay, you can use quadratic formula or you can use completing the square. Either way it's going to work. So m squared plus 4m equals negative 21. Okay, 4 divided by 2 squared is going to be 4. So plus 4 and plus 4. Now this is where m squared plus 4m plus 4 equals negative, what, 17? Okay, so m plus 2 squared equals negative 17. Now when I go to take the square root of this stuff, can I take the square root of a negative number? Nope. So that means in this one, I've got no solution. And all that means is that it doesn't cross the x-axis. One of those parabolas that doesn't cross the x-axis. Okay, number 42, we've got to add 7x to both sides. So 4x squared plus 7x minus 15 equals 0. Number in front of x squared, so we've got to go quadratic formula. So the opposite of b, negative 7 plus or minus the square root of b squared. 49 minus 4 times A times C, all divided by 2 times A. So this is going to give us negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 plus 240 when we type all that junk in there, all divided by 8. So negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 289, all divided by 8. Split it into 2. Negative 7 plus square root of 289 is 17 divided by 8, and then negative 7 minus 17 divided by 8. Okay, so now when we do this, we end up with 10 over 8, which is 1.25, and this one we get negative 24 over 8, which is negative 3. So there are our two answers for number 42. 43, nice and factored for us, so I can set them both equal to 0. 2x equals 0, x minus 5 equals 0. This one I've got to divide by 2, so x equals 0. This one I add 5, x equals 5. And those are our two answers. Okay, that's going to end this part of the YouTube video. So starting on the next section, starting on number 44, is where we will pick up the next video.